Go.
Here at Sound, we have our own Google Drive, and it's jctsoundcrew@gmail.com. This is where all the official emails are sent to for Sound and how we communicate officially through to the director and things like this. The password is currently baconbits11. I advise changing it. I just said it on this video. But everyone has access to this. It's currently set up so any emails get shared to all of us. That way, if we get email notes, we all get it to our personal emails and can go over them. But the big thing this is used for is for storing documents. Here we have a Beauty and the Beast section. This has a bunch of documents. The biggest one is currently the speaking. Who speaks when? So we've gone and we've divided up the script already, and I'll show that shortly, into board scenes. You know, the small little snippets of here's who's speaking when, here's when this mic needs to be on. And to get that figured out, we start here. We already have the board scenes made, it's already divided up, and we just get a list of the whole cast, the entire cast, even parts that have 1 and 2 lines, and we mark them up. We put a black box when they're speaking. See, we have this scene, Town Part 1, pages 2 or 3, it's board scene number 2. And these black boxes are who's speaking in it. Ignore the color for now. And we do it for the whole show. This takes a while. This is not an easy task. And then we'll print this out. I spent 2 days staring at this printed out on a wall, trying to figure out what we call the sticky notes, which is who could be on a mic together. So, like in this scene, RF7 at the beginning is on Bookseller, and then it gets taken off of Bookseller here at page 5 and 6, and then RF7 goes and moves on to Chip on page 14 and 15. To figure this all out, we looked at that sheet with all the black lines, and we said, who needs to be on a mic by themselves? Who needs a mic the whole time? And for me, we decided that was Belle, Gaston, LeFou, and Maurice. So they have their own mics. And then we just divided and said, okay, we need Babette to be mic'd. That's not a question. We need Lumiere to be mic'd. They don't need their mic. They don't come in until halfway through the play. So who can we put it on at the beginning of the play? That's how we figured all this out. And some of these may have 2 and 3 switches. We also have 2 spares. Another thing to keep in mind. The handheld uses an RF channel. So if you plan on having one handheld, you can only plan on 11 RF mics. There's a guy locally who does let us borrow some wireless channels. There are 2 people we can borrow from. One of them lets us borrow 4 RF channels, one of us up to 8. So we can effectively double our mic inventory if we need to. Here we only borrowed 1 set and we had 16 mics, which is considered a lot. And we just took this and we put it back on this list and made it nice and color-coded so we know when people get their mics taken on and put off. And then we condensed it. We made it into the mic change list, which is down here. This is 2 pages. We printed it out and we gave it to the mic table and we said, here's what you do. All that's here are the mic'd actors, because they don't care about actors who are speaking and not mic'd. And then it's green for put a mic on, and it's red for taking a mic off, and up here we have the page number of when it happens. Nice and simple, and given this and a script, the mic table can be very autonomous. They can work on their own without the need for much of a call, except for occasionally saying, check someone's connection, or check the battery on this, or things like that. It's nice and efficient, but it does take a while to get to this sheet. The other very important thing on this drive is the patch list. I made 7,000 copies of this. I taped 1 by the patch board, 2 stayed in the booth, an extra in the closet, 1 stayed on the mic table, and everyone had it on their phones. That way they could know what the patch is. Because the church comes in every Sunday, so we have to go and repatch all the time. And the patch is constantly changing. We're constantly adding and taking away mics. That way we can go and everyone's on the same page about what patch we're currently using and what the patch looks like, because it changes so often. And here we just have the name of the thing it is, where it's physically located, like patch S7 or P10, and what it's patched to, such as 10 to 10, P17 to 1, 18 to 2, P18 to 2. That way we're all on the same page. Patch list is extremely important, and it will ruin your show if you lose it. Another thing is on here that's fairly important is fader placement. This might not be such a big deal to the newer engineer, but think about it. If we have our strip assignment over there on the board, and going from left to right, we have Beast in one scene and Belle next to him, and then the next scene is them, but they're flipped, and Belle is on the left and Beast is on the right. That's just annoying, because then you have to go, oh snap, they moved, and then move your hands and get used to it. So we made this fun little sheet, if it'll load, that is basically a list of where every mic is, what every scene looks like. See, Belle is almost always on the first one, unless she isn't in the show, unless she isn't in the scene. In which case, Maurice will tend to be in the front, unless he's not in the scene. And I tend to go more important actors on the left, and least important actors on the right. That's not to say every actor isn't important, but some clearly have more speaking roles than the other. This is great because it allows you to communicate with your crew and everyone to be on the same page. You can see in here I also have a copy of the cast list. I have a to-do list. I have the whole ASCAP repository, that way I can know what's ASCAP and not. When we talk about licensing, we'll get into that. One thing I learned from this, don't have multiple of the same document. Look how many mic change lists there are. So when it comes time to find which one's actually the real one, it's a major pain. If it's not in date, delete it. We also have a copy of the QLab here in case we lose it. But that's really this. The documentation here really helps. I know it may be a pain to go through and annotate a script 3 times. We'll talk about annotation shortly, but it helps. Proper planning prevents piss poor performance. Going through this, doing all of this properly will help you majorly. Taking the week or 2 it takes to just do documentation and just figure this all out is extremely important. And another thing, when you're working on this, don't have too many chefs in the kitchen, as they say. My crew for this was 5 people, and 3 people worked on this documentation at most at a time. That way people aren't trying to do their own thing. Everyone's on the same page. And that's really documentation. Document everything. Spreadsheets are your friend. And on here, we also have a couple examples of order sheets of how to put out POs. Just to show those really quick. When we send out a PO to Merit, we have how many we want, the name of it, how many it costs per unit, the total price for how many we want, the location. Most of our things come from Sweetwater, and the total price of the PO. And that's really that. Thank you.
Thank you.